All right, welcome to the Young Turks, the online news show. Cenk Ugrantic sparing with you guys. So I was watching an old clip and I remembered that I used to start the show with absurd stories all the time.
Do you have one right now?
Yeah, just a little fun little one.
Okay, do it.
So normally, you know, I'm a very careful driver, right? And like, well, no, like
careful is not the right word. You're more like a scared driver, because you're afraid of your spatial reasoning issue.
No, I'm just like, yeah, I'm a defensive driver. I'm fine. I'm very calm, right?
He's a fun driver, yeah.
Yeah, so we go-karting. I told the audience about it on the Operation Joy on Tuesday. A super random trip. And then so Joy goes with her mom the first time around, they do a double. And she's like, okay, yeah, that was fun. She's like, okay, next time I'll go with dad. I'm like, okay, sure, let's go. And then the problem is that once anything is competitive, I'm like, oh, it's go time.
Oh no.
It's go-kart. I'm like, afterwards I asked Joy, she's like, like, were you scared a little bit? She's like, yeah, okay.
Okay, so the last time I went go-karting was like maybe 10, 12 years ago. And I also am very competitive, and there was a sharp turn and I crashed into a wall of tires.
Oh, I did that several times. I got black flagged.
Oh.
Okay, they're like, no, you gotta stop, you're crazy, okay. And in the second time around, that was the first time around without Joy. Second time with Joy, yeah, I got Malachi crunch because I was trying to squeeze in between two cars.
Oh, disaster.
And Joy's like, Baba, that was my first car crash.
Wow.
Anyways, I tell you that because as I was driving in, I randomly thought of it and I laughed, and then I thought, you know, it's a little bit descriptive of the Young Turks. Like if you are
always crashing into walls.
Yeah, if you're not used to the Young Turks way of doing news, you'll come in for you first. You'll have that emoji reaction of, right, and then you realize, well, this is different than the ride I had before.
Yeah,
this ride is bumpier, more exciting. And of course, in our case, we hope a lot more true. So thank you for coming along on that ride. And yeah, it does get bumpy and scary sometimes, but that's the news. And we try to have fun with it. And we try to give you, do the very best we can with you guys to give you the honest reporting.
I think we should do the Scott Jennings model of hosting together, where we just do like a split screen, and every time you talk, I make super smug faces like,
yeah.
And you can do the same.
Yeah, first of all, to be fair, I live in a glass house of reactive faces. Okay, like my facial reactions.
No, but you're not. I try really hard to be stoic when other people are talking, because I don't want to be. Look, sometimes I am rude, but when they deserve it, and usually on Piers Morgan's show. But like you're a grown man. Like, what are you doing?
No, he does it every single time.
Yeah.
So every time anybody's talking that it isn't him, let alone disagrees with him, he's like.
Okay.
All right. Anyways,
all right, we got to get to work.
We do. All right. So unfortunately, discrimination at home, discrimination abroad. You know what's coming, and this starting a war with Venezuela is cray-cray.
It is.
And that unfortunately looks like it is happening. We're gonna give you some stunning details on that. And guys, I'm wearing my America Loves Palestine shirt. 100% of the profits goes to Palestine Children's Relief Fund. Check it out at shoptyt.com. Wear it around. Make sure everybody knows American people are in favor of Palestinians. We're not like our leaders. All right, Anna.
Well, today we begin with this.
I've seen a lot of calls for action, among these lawmakers saying that we shouldn't just be praying. One that I've seen on the right actually is calls for the FBI to institute a new class of domestic terrorism that involves trans ideology. Is that something that the administration would support?
I would have to check with the appropriate people on that.
And it appears that White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt did check in with the White House on that, because last week you just heard that senior reporter from the Daily Wire asking whether trans ideology should receive a terror designation. And it looks like now the White House is considering maybe banning trans people from being able to obtain guns, which makes me wonder, Cenk. How exactly would that work, right? When you have, let's say, transgender individuals like Blair White, who's very convincing, okay? Are you gonna do a genital test? Anyway, so here's what we know. Mary Margaret Olohan, who is the very reporter that you saw in that video, just reported today, breaking, the Justice Department is deliberating banning guns for transgenders as part of a range of options blocking mentally unstable individuals from committing acts of violence. The Daily Wire has learned, and an anonymous DOJ source also told the Daily Wire the following: individuals within the Justice Department are reviewing ways to ensure that mentally ill individuals suffering from gender dysphoria are unable to obtain firearms while they are unstable and unwell. And a DOJ spokesman would not comment on specific measures being considered, but said that a range of options is on the table. Now, do I think they're actually gonna try to go through with this? I mean, I don't know. It seems like another squirrel that the Trump administration is throwing at us, but just for the sake of this discussion, I wanna take this seriously, as if they're being serious about it and they're literally gonna go out of their way to discriminate against one tiny group of people in this country based on a handful of shootings that happened or were carried out by transgender people. And we're gonna give you the numbers in a second, but you know what this also does? It divides the country, it directs hatred and bigotry toward one group of people in this country. It leads to the types of conversations that we're about to have, where we break down how many mass shootings are committed by straight white males and how many are committed by transgender people. I'm sick of having these discussions.
Yeah.
Okay, like, by the way, you wanted to put them in a designated like terror list or something? If you're on the terrorist watch list in America, you can still legally buy guns. Let that sink in for a second. Anyway, Cenk, go ahead.
Yeah, so lots of things here. First of all, obvious discrimination. So if you're in favor of this, you don't believe in equality, period. And you can say, hey, I have good reasons. If you're a radical right, so well, I really don't like those people. I just think that they're all mentally ill. Brother, I mean, if you're a fascist, I can make that same argument about you, which is gonna be point number 2 in a second, okay? But no, but the argument you can't make is, I wanna treat everyone equally. You're not. You're saying these group of people should have less rights, okay? Argument number 2 is related. Be careful what you wish for if you're a right winger. Because once you ban one group of people from owning guns, well, you just opened that door. Now we could ban other groups of people from owning guns, okay?
Yeah.
And we could do different things like, oh, well, you're doing it based on identity, trans, right? We could do it based on that, white males, right wingers, etc. You could say, oh, mentally ill. Well, I think a lot of you are mentally ill. Okay, boom, here we go, open another door. Oh, they're domestic terrorists. Well, I think that there's right-wing domestic terrorists, opened another door.
Yeah.
So if you're in favor of the Second Amendment, this is actually a disaster for you.
And
you actually should, this is a shoehorn thing where the left is really bothered by discrimination against anyone, including trans people, and the right, this is opening the door big time to taking your guns away.
So I saw a few people commenting about this on social media pundits, that type of stuff. And they were arguing, oh, this is a genius ploy by Donald Trump to get the left to defend gun rights. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but over the last few years, I've been pretty defensive about gun rights. I believe in the Second Amendment. You know, we can have a conversation about some regulations. I think a federal background check is important. I think we should have that. But I think that some elements of the left do go too far in wanting to ban guns. It is a constitutional right. We should have that constitutional right. Now, it would be interesting to see those who are in favor of banning guns overall, coming out to say that, coming out to defend gun rights specifically because trans people are being targeted. I don't want anyone targeted because of their identity. I don't care if they're trans, I don't care if they're white males, I don't care if they're from the planet, Mars. It doesn't matter. If we have that constitutional right, it should apply to everyone. Now, if we want to have a conversation about certain mental health conditions that would make one more of a risk if they were to obtain guns, let's have that conversation. But to boil it down to one specific group, in this case, transgender people, is pretty sick. And I see what they're doing here. This is also a ploy to continue tearing the country apart. Make no mistake about it. That's what this is about.
Yeah, so that's what the second thing I was gonna get to. First of all, once you start characterizing people as domestic terrorists, we're off to the races, right? So look, there's an argument to be made when they do a political manifesto and they say, okay, here, I'm going to kill all these black people in the church. Or if you found someone in any category, trans, Muslim, whatever, and they're like, oh, I mean to kill all straight people or all white people or Christians, whatever, right? Okay, you can make an argument. But the whole category, like anyone who by definition has done some violent act and is a trans person is a terrorist, that's crazy talk, right? Because now we're just gonna label each other terrorists back and forth. When a Democrat gets in office, all the right wings are terrorists. And remember, when there was a report out from the FBI going, no, we're actually worried about domestic terrorism because they are organizing as groups, they are armed, and they are saying they are going to do violence, right? That's when the right wing was like, how dare you? You shouldn't call any Americans terrorists. Now they're like, oh yeah, sure, let's do it to trans people. So again, brother, be careful the door you're opening. I thought you said you didn't want anybody to tread on you.
By the way, let me also just be clear. Look, this story just broke. So I'm gonna wait to see like a more comprehensive reaction from conservatives and the right. Initially though, I did see a lot of Second Amendment defenders coming out and saying exactly what you're saying, that this is dangerous. And credit to them because they can see that this does in fact open the door to the very thing that they want to prevent.
So guys, the political spectrum is starting to shatter, right? And I love it, I'm here for it. I would even, people have argued that I'm part of that and I'm very proud of that. Because look, what do we care about whether if you're on the left, right, Democrat, Republican? Do you agree with this thing or do you not agree with this thing? Okay, and if you're a right winger who says on the grounds of the Second Amendment, I do not agree with this thing, I think it is wrong. Okay, great, fantastic, right? We agree. This is not a thing that you should do. And I want you to note, by the way, whether you're on the right or left, here we are again in culture wars.
I know, that's why I think this is intentional. This is intentionally done to just get your eye off the ball and just fight each other, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because it's gonna force us to give you stats about white males and how they could do the overwhelming majority of shootings. Just to point out the hypocrisy that it's not trans people doing most of these shootings, that's nuts, right? But then, of course, like if you fall fully into that trap, then you argue for months and years about who's more guilty, white males or trans people. Okay, you're right in the thick of the culture wars then, and they've got you perfectly distracted and exactly where they want you to continue the robbery.
Listen, the horrific shooting that happened at that Catholic church last week. It was last week, right? Yes. Okay, that shooter was obviously, based on the evidence we've seen already, deranged, mentally ill. There were all sorts of problems with that individual, especially with what was scrawled across magazines and stuff. Hated pretty much every group you can imagine, Latinos, Jewish people, it doesn't matter. Muslims, everyone, okay? So this person clearly needed mental health care, like needed help. There was something wrong with this person. I say that because if you are part of the federal government and you are genuinely concerned about your fellow Americans, you are worried about what is happening with shootings in this country, you would actually look for actual serious solutions. You would try to figure out, okay, what is the through line when it comes to these mass shootings? Well, a lot of these mass shooters have serious mental health issues. And rather than just talking about it every once in a while to prevent the conversation about possible gun control, how about these politicians who really have no interest in serving us, in looking out for us, have no interest in figuring out what's in the best interest of the American people. What they do is they throw red meat, fight each other. Go ahead, plebes, go ahead, fight each other. And we're not gonna do anything to allocate funding for mental health care. Oh, you're drowning in debt? Sorry, we're gonna help our private equity buddies snatch up all of the remaining residential real estate in the middle of a housing crisis. Our federal government is just garbage, okay? Congress is useless. I don't even know what Trump is up to. It's complete and utter chaos. He's all over the place when it comes to his policies. He's talking about how much he wants peace, and then he is essentially starting a war with Venezuela, a literal hot war with Venezuela. What are we doing here? Don't get distracted by the red meat, okay? Your enemy is not your fellow American, regardless of what their identity is. Your enemy at this point are the politicians who are pitting you against your fellow Americans. That's what's happening right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, do you want me to get into the details?
Just give us one or two facts so people understand the context of who's actually doing most of the shootings.
And look, as I give you the stats and the details, I just want to preface this by saying, I am not in favor of banning guns for anyone based on their identity, whether we're talking about straight white males or transgender people, okay? Now, is there an epidemic of trans shooters or is trans ideology a national emergency? Well, there are some researchers who have looked into this, including Michael Jensen, the research director at the National Consortium for the Study of Terrorism and Responses to Terrorism. This individual says no. Jensen's research has identified more than 1,000 mass casualty plots where the perpetrator clearly intended to kill or injure as many people as possible since the start of 2023. You can count on less than one hand how many of those were perpetrated by a transgender individual, he said. And we'll also take a moment to note that between 2004 and 2014, suspected terrorists attempted to purchase guns from American dealers at least 2,233 times. Yeah, I mean, look, and 2,043 of those cases, 91% of the time, they succeeded because it is very easy to purchase guns. Like as we've talked about on the show, like one of the things that I do have a little bit of a problem with is that you can go to a gun show, you can buy a gun from the back of someone's truck without going through a background check. I'm not trying to be super restrictive. I just want to make sure that people who are bad guys aren't able to just legally buy as many guns as they want. Now, as for the demographics of mass shooters, according to data dating back all the way to 2006, most mass shooters and accused shooters are either white, 38%, or black, 29%, followed by Hispanic or Latino, 14%, Asian, Pacific Islander, 5%, and Native American, 1%. The remaining 10% are of another race or their race is not available. Furthermore, only 16 of the 492 deadliest mass shootings in the United States, just 3%, are known or suspected to have been committed by a woman acting alone.
Yeah, so if we wanted to ban people based on their proclivity to commit mass shootings, the number one group we would ban is males. Forget race, forget gender, gender identity, whatever, males, okay? Now, should we ban all males from having guns? Well, I'm for significant gun control, so don't get me started, okay? And I wouldn't keep it to males, I'd keep it to everyone. But my guess is the majority of the country will say, oh, hell no, that makes no sense. So why are you targeting the 3% instead of the 97%? That doesn't make any sense at all. And so guys, look, we've been honest from day one on all these issues, and we've drawn the line where honestly the great majority of Americans have, but almost no one on the left or right has, which is, we think that there's issues with transports, and we think that you've got to be careful with surgery before 18, etc. Not careful, you shouldn't do it before 18. All these things that, as it turns out, the polling indicates about where 80% of the country is. But we're also where 80% of the country is when you start taking away rights from transgender Americans, right? So you can't take rights away when it comes to whether you treat them differently in the military, whether you treat them differently when it comes to their constitutional rights. And this is the right wing would certainly agree, this is a core constitutional right.
Do you love this country and what it's supposed to stand for, or do you not? Do you believe in our Constitution or do you not? Because if you think that certain people should be, or our constitutional rights don't apply to certain people just simply based on their identity, then you don't believe in America and you don't love our Constitution.
Yeah, and last point goes to one of our members, Wang Jun on TYT.com. Alternative headline, DOJ considers taking away trans people's ability to defend themselves from violent hate crimes. And
that's a really good point, actually.
And isn't it interesting? And that's why I love our audience. And I love that you guys are part of the show and smartest audience in the country. And because when you frame it that way, it makes you realize, oh, there is two different ways to frame the same story, isn't it? And it's interesting the choices that people make, right? When it applies to one group of people, they go with a different headline. Another group of people, Wait a minute, 100% opposite headline. So in this case, yes, you could be talking about taking away the right of trans Americans to defend themselves, period. And that's framing that is not good for the DOJ in this ridiculous effort to target our fellow Americans.
Exactly. All right, well, we got to take a break. When we come back, we'll move on to some other news, including Donald Trump's efforts to take this tariffs battle to the Supreme Court. What does that mean? What will the consequences be? That and more coming up. Don't miss it.
All right, back on TYT. Let's go to our members as usual. Funkin' for Fun writes in on TYT.com. We go from respecting all genders and pronouns or you're fired to trans people are enemy of the state. I can't keep up with America.
I know, it's a joke. Because the pendulum is just gonna keep swinging from one extreme to another, guys. By the way, I mean, I respect people's pronouns. Or I don't think that's an extreme thing. But
well, he's saying you respect the pronouns or you're fired.
Okay, that I don't agree with. That is extreme, yeah. I'm sick of it. I think the majority of people in this country just want good representation. They want to see their tax dollars go toward making their communities and their country better. They don't want to engage in endless, ridiculous wars. They don't want to fund a genocide in Gaza. They don't want to fund the annexation of the West Bank. When are we gonna get appropriate representation in our federal government?
Well, when you get money out of politics. Until then, no way. But another interesting part of that point is, look at how it's not just politics, it's the public mood and the press and the culture that comes with it. Because like, if you're not respecting someone's pronouns and you're calling them by a gender that they're not, that's super disrespectful and terrible and rude and all that stuff. But we were in a period where if you didn't write he, him, his, etc., some places called you into HR and they asked you like.
That was a super dark time. I'm not gonna lie about that.
Yeah, and so my point there is though, wait, it's the same American people that just 2 or 3 years ago we were told by the press said if you don't get the right pronouns, you're the worst, most evil person in the world. Now that same press is telling us, it's a legitimate debate on whether they're all terrorists and we should take their rights away. Well, it can't be both. The American people can't believe both of those things, right? So it's more of like this narrative in the media that pushes these issues and pushes the culture in one way or another. And it's just fascinating to see, especially such a short period of time. That's why I think Funkin' for Fun, that was a really trenchant point. Eclectic writes in, go-karts make me think of Mario Kart. And I say, forget Mario Kart. We need a TYT kart game where you can play as your favorite host and try to avoid attacks from the corporate media characters. Now that is hilarious and interesting. I'll think about it. And before we got on, Pro said, I'm gonna throw a banana peel at you. I was like, what? And I was like, oh right, Mario Kart. Okay. Don't shoot, I'm the goalkeeper. Said, Cenk and Anna's making fun of Scott Jennings' faces are killing me. You're welcome and thank you. Art guy says, do we have to get the news? Let's just have Cenk tell stories for an hour.
Yeah, dude, I want that so bad.
Well, I appreciate it, guys, but that's what God made old school for. So if you're a member, you get old school live, and anytime you want, hit that beautiful join button below. And we're not changing the branding of that. That's a big, beautiful join button. Also, tyt.com/join. All right, Just Jim says, every night when I come here, I have the same reaction as Cenk's daughter. Rubik's Realtor Dragon says, you know what? We all need some damn go-karting. Game on. Little Mac McChee says, last time I went go-karting was with my soldiers during a team building / family day event years and years ago. It was a great time. You forget how fun it is until you do it again. Big ol' a-hole writes in, RFK Jr. got his ass roasted. He's just an effing piece of crap. Well, don't worry. We're gonna get to that in a little bit. A YTP Renewed on Twitch said, so now the Second Amendment isn't absolute. Well, that is interesting for those who think that. Socrates Bartender says, I think Jennings gets paid per face and gets bonuses for higher quality faces. All right, back on TYT, Jen Gadano with you guys. So also Laura Holmes, Drunken Monkey, and Avery Maple.
Those are my favorite kind of monkeys.
Totally. So it's literally what I was gonna say. First time I ever came to LA, I had a I think the Drunken Monkey drink.
Oh,
and I was like, oh, this is a magical place.
Is there banana in it?
Of course. And CDN Norse Dog Dad and Stanley Smith both gifted gifted memberships on YouTube. You guys are the best. We appreciate you. All right, what's next, Sam?
We got to talk about the tariffs. There's a big fight about it.
We have trillions of dollars coming into our country. If we didn't have tariffs, we would be a very poor nation, and we would be taken advantage of by every other nation in the world, friend and foe. We're not going to let that happen. And we have a very, very big case in the Supreme Court. I can only say this. Our country has a chance to be unbelievably rich again, but it can also be unbelievably poor again. If we don't win that case, our country is going to suffer so greatly.
You know, that White House is really suffering from the excess gold. What's going on there? Like, you like bombing Iran, but the White House looks like you're a Persian guy. Like, what's going on? Like, come on. Anyway, sorry, I had to comment on the gold. I like brass fixtures in my home, but like too much.
Yeah,
too much.
That's Trump's middle name, too much.
Exactly, yes. All right, but let's get to the topic at hand, which is tariffs, much sexier than interior design. So the Trump administration is now officially asking the United States Supreme Court to weigh in on the legality, the constitutionality of his various trade wars, his tariffs policy. And he wants to do this after a lower court has ruled that his sweeping tariffs are in fact illegal. So Trump filed a petition late on Wednesday this week to ask for a review of last week's federal appeals court ruling. This is in Washington, D.C., which centered on his Liberation Day tariffs. The court found in a 7-4 ruling last Friday that Trump overstepped his presidential powers when he invoked a 1977 law designed to address national emergencies to justify his reciprocal tariffs. You know, I know this is surprising, but you can't just declare that there's a national emergency because you want to do what you want to do without dealing with Congress. I get that Congress is pretty much useless at this point, but maybe we fix that instead of have an executive branch that unilaterally does anything it wants. Again, they were not reciprocal at all, despite his claims otherwise. So the federal appeals court said that US law bestows significant authority on the president to undertake a number of actions in response to a declared national emergency, but none of these actions explicitly include the power to impose tariffs, duties, or the like, or the power to tax. And it also said that many of Trump's steep tariffs were unbounded in scope, amount, and duration, and assert an expansive authority that is beyond the express limitations of the law his administration has leaned on. In other words, this don't make any sense. That's what they're saying.
Yeah, so it doesn't make sense in a lot of ways, but this is one of the ones where I think the Supreme Court might cheat a little bit and give Trump the victory. So let me explain why they shouldn't, why this ruling is definitely right, and then why they might go in the wrong direction. So first of all, Congress has the duty of imposing taxes, period. So that's a constitutional issue, and so that's why even this law that Trump is citing says the president can regulate but cannot impose taxes. Again, core constitutional power of Congress, not the president, right? So I know Donald Trump doesn't care about separation of powers. He said the other day that I'm president, so I can do whatever I want. That's not how our system of government works. Number two, is there a national emergency around tariffs? No, of course not. It's absurd. It's not even close. So that doesn't mean you shouldn't do anything. That doesn't mean you shouldn't even pass tariffs or these particular tariffs. But it means you have to pass them into law and then the president signs them. Not, I felt like it because I have emergency powers to regulate. But that's where the Supreme Court might go, well, you say impose, I say regulate. So I think it's within his powers to regulate tariffs, and Congress gave him that authority through this law, even though the law clearly says he cannot impose taxes, right? So But they might use that as a way to go, well, okay, we're not gonna let him do X, Y, and Z, get rid of due process, that's more important. And rule, they're probably gonna rule against him on a bunch of major cases because he's so outside the law and outside the Constitution. So they're gonna wanna give him one here because the optics of this is it feels like maybe the president should be able to do tariffs, and they're gonna be reluctant to reverse the fact that we've already gotten trade deals. So they're gonna rely on.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I didn't think about that.
Yeah. So now they're very wrong about it because of one of their own precedents that they set to block Biden just a couple of years ago. So we're gonna get to that in a second.
Yeah.
So, but this is one where you gotta watch out. Supreme Court could, like I said, go in Trump's direction, even though it's clearly not right by the law.
Wow, okay, so the appeals court paused its ruling, I should note that, allowing the tariffs to remain in effect at least until October 14th, so the administration could file its appeal with the Supreme Court. And Trump, of course, quickly hit back in dramatic fashion, claiming that, quote, if allowed to stand, this decision would literally destroy the United States of America. Okay. I mean, look, it's hard to take this guy seriously. He even said that the US could end up being a third world country. I got news for you. It is increasingly looking like a third world country, and the federal court's ruling on your tariffs policy has little to do with it.
Yeah, because of massive income inequality that both parties have created. Now the martial law you're threatening by rolling in, troops into our cities. You're the one ignoring the rule of law. Number one way to become a third world country in his terminology is to ignore the rules and the constitution of a country and turn it into some sort of autocracy, and that's what destroys countries.
Yeah, so in the petition to the Supreme Court, let's get into some of the details on that, which was filed on Wednesday night. The administration continued in this vein, saying that the tariffs are promoting peace and unprecedented economic prosperity. Your 50% tariffs pushed India into the arms of a foe, China. Like, what are you talking about? What is this? Like, okay, yes, world peace. Our tariffs policy is promoting world peace. Okay. Saying that the tariffs are promoting peace and unprecedented economic prosperity and pulling America back from the precipice of disaster, restoring its respect and standing in the world. America is more isolated now than ever before. India was a longtime ally. They're now like hitting up China to like attend the military parades that they're
Russia
doing.
And Iran.
Russia, yeah. Congratulations, America. So the Supreme Court still has to decide, of course, whether or not to take up this case. Solicitor General D. John Sawyer asked the justices to make a decision by September 10th. But in the case that the lower court's ruling is allowed to stand, what exactly would happen? So let's get into that. The current average US effective tariff rate right now is about 16.3%. That would be halved, okay? It would be cut in half. The US could be forced to pay back tens of billions of dollars because tariffs have already been, we've spent money on tariffs already. So obviously that would have to be refunded. And preliminary trade deals Trump has struck with some countries could be derailed. And what about revenue? So Trump keeps saying that his tariffs are going to bring in $17 trillion in revenue, which is—
Come on, man, Jesus Christ.
Come on. Which is absurd. $17 trillion would represent more than 4 times all annual US imports, or more than half of the total US economy. It's more than double what the White House claimed over the weekend the tariffs were generating. So he just throws numbers out there without even thinking about it. So $17 trillion, okay.
And that's, like that when he does that, I was gonna say it was 8 trillion, 17 trillion. You get a sense that maybe he didn't calculate the number.
Yeah, recalculating. According to the Tax Foundation, expected revenue over the next decade would increase from $2.3 trillion to $547 billion if Trump loses his case at the Supreme Court. And that is significant, but nowhere near the astronomical, $17 trillion figure that he was touting. Now, let's talk a little bit about, I'm gonna talk a little bit about some of the federal judges who are worried about the Supreme Court being too deferential to Trump. But did you want to jump in, Cenk?
Yeah, I do. So first, I want to answer a question by one of our members. Kaylee wrote in, is it just me or does Trump get fast-tracked to SCOTUS unlike everybody else? No, Kaylee, on that one, that's very normal because the president is taking massive action. And if it's illegal or unconstitutional, the Supreme Court has to step in. Well, the courts have to step in overall and stop it. And then the Supreme Court has to decide in a hurry, is this allowed on a national scale or not allowed? Because when the president acts in this way and there's a significant constitutional question, they got to get that through the courts as soon as possible. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I love that you're participating in part of the show, tyt.com/join to become a member and be part of the show. All right, now, look, guys, you know how aggressive I am. So if one of our allies is in office, I say, have at it, Hoss. Etiquette, don't care. Unspoken rules or unwritten rules, well, you should have written them down, okay? So I would push super aggressively to get our bills passed that favor the American people. But I would never go outside the law. I would never go outside the Constitution because then you're defeating the purpose. The purpose is to protect and perfect America and to make it better and to serve the average American. And if you're destroying the Constitution to do that, it is counterproductive, right? So now, when you look at the Supreme Court in this case, there's 3 reasons why they should rule against Trump. One of them is legal and I think determinative. That's why I say the Supreme Court kind of has to cheat here to get to rule for Trump. But first, before we get to that, if they ruled for Trump, they'd actually ruled against Trump. They'd actually be doing Trump a huge favor because these tariffs are going to drive up inflation.
It's already begun,
right?
By the way.
And it has, and so it's going to really hurt the economy. So if Trump can say, "Well, I was going to do the tariffs, and they were going to get us 17 trillion, and they were going to, but the damn Supreme Court wouldn't let me," that would be a huge favor for Trump, even though Trump doesn't realize it, right?
Maybe Trump's playing 3D chess.
Yeah, a little less likely.
No.
Little less likely.
A lot less likely.
What's
more likely is the $17 trillion in revenue from his tariffs. Okay, that's more likely than Trump playing 3D chess in this situation.
Yeah. 2D checkers is barely capable. Anyway, so the second reason that the Supreme Court might rule against Trump is because they usually vote in favor of corporate interests. And these tariffs are against corporate interests.
They don't like that.
And so now, this is a rare case where corporations are kind of right? They're not just doing it for their own. Well, they are doing it just for their own benefit, but they coincidentally happen to be right. But Supreme Court generally cares more about the corporate interest than political interest.
Hold on, I got to jump in on that, Cenk, because it really depends on the corporation. Because the way that Trump sold his tariffs policy to the American people is not the way he's actually carrying it out. Obviously, he doesn't really care about manufacturing jobs coming back to the United States. In fact, we have less manufacturing jobs. In fact, a new jobs report came out and hiring has slowed considerably. Our economy has come to a kind of a screeching halt. And now you have various companies basically warning consumers prices are about to go up because we've been eating the costs of Trump's tariffs. But there's a wrinkle in this story, Cenk, that I don't think is being talked about enough. And that wrinkle is the fact that, there are some corporations, there are some US-based companies who got carve-outs from Trump's tariffs. And so there's like some bribery going on with that, which disgusts me, but it also gives the companies who are bribing to get those carve-outs an edge in the markets, right? Because they're able to offer their product for less because they're not, having to pass off the cost of the tariffs to the consumers.
Yeah, so look, that's crony capitalism, corporate capture.
Yeah, absolutely.
All those problems, and both the voters of both the left and the right are sick of that. So finally, for me, what is the core legal issue here? Well, the Supreme Court announced something called a major questions doctrine under Biden. And so Biden was trying to do student loan forgiveness.
Right.
And they said, no, if it's a major question of policy that affects the budget significantly, then it's a major question that has to be authorized by Congress, and the president cannot do it unilaterally. Now the tariffs, the size of the tariffs dwarf the student debt forgiveness. So they are much, much larger, so there's no question that it is a major question according to the major questions doctrine that the Supreme Court set as a precedent just a couple of years ago. So they would have to reverse their own precedent, which would then become comical.
It would, total clown show.
We meant the president does doesn't need authority if it's a major question. And so now are they gonna reverse every time there's a new president? So I don't know how they're gonna get around that one, but that would be a massive case of legal hypocrisy if they turn around and say this is not a major question, because it clearly is according to their own standard, and hence has to be passed by Congress and cannot be done unilaterally by the president.
Well, Vinny from the PBD podcast is pissed. And when we come back, we're gonna show you why.
Let's go to members. Lobbyists for Big Poor writes in, I'm just getting here, so maybe someone already said this, but if we go to war with Venezuela, then all the Venezuelan immigrants could be deported under the Alien Enemies Act. That would solve the problem of having to bring back those sent to El Salvador. Oh, that's interesting. So no, we're gonna tackle the Venezuela story in a little bit. I hadn't thought of that, so that's a really good point. God, I'd love you guys, okay? But I think that there are bigger issues at hand. Oil. And they're definitely going to do a coup. So we'll explain that a little bit later. Purple Rain Dragon said, we're heading towards a national emergency because of the tariffs. Well, the American people agree with you. 60% hate the tariffs. Bloated Ego says, all these tariffs/taxes have been paid by Americans. That's a fact. Don't Shoot, I'm the Goalkeeper says, yeah, America's more isolated, Donald, thanks to you, which is indisputably true. I mean, if you're a right winger and you say, well, I want us to be isolated. I don't like the New World Order. I hate globalism. I like isolationism. All right, okay, but you can't say that you're an isolationist and you hate globalism and that we've united the world. We haven't. That's not. You weren't trying to, and you didn't. All right, I also want to tell you, oh, by the way, if you're a YouTube member and you want to get some of the privileges on the website, sometimes members only votes on polls, especially when we're taking action. We've got True North there, which is John Idolo's series about his visit to the North Pole, etc. It's super easy. You already have the membership if you're a YouTube member. So you just got to go to tyt.com/connect. And that'll connect your two accounts. It doesn't cost you anything at all, and obviously it doesn't take long at all. Ring the bell if you can on YouTube. That helps the show a lot. We appreciate it. Help you keep up with the show, especially my weekends with Cenk live videos I'm doing lately. On Shop TYT, we've got the Free Palestine collection. So 100% of the profits go to Palestine Children's Relief Fund. And what we're trying to do here, guys, and I've been wearing these around town, is that, and I'll tell you the reaction in a second, is we're trying to raise awareness that the American people are good-hearted folks who care about the suffering in Gaza. We're not like our corrupt, awful politicians. We're not like a lot of our media. Our hearts go out to the Palestinians that show support. So when I wore this shirt out the other day, dinner and all around wherever I was in town, you got great reaction. You also got some side eyes because LA does have a lot of Israeli supporters, okay? But I was glad about that too. Yeah, what, you object to loving Palestinians? I'm sure you do, right? But much more so, you got wonderfully positive reactions, all saying, yeah, I love the shirt. And folks that didn't know about TYT at all. All right, on Twitch, Mr. Scruffy04 says, kind of makes sense that GOP lawmakers would favor genital checks over background checks. That's funny. And that is kind of what they're saying right now. Someone's weird mom says, just wanted to say how thankful I am to have come across TYT. Thank you for speaking the truth and shedding light on the reality of what's happening in our government. That's awesome. Thank you for saying that. We really appreciate it. On YouTube member section, Richard Mullenix says, First Amendment, Second Amendment, 14th Amendment. I thought this bloke loved our Constitution. Starting to seem like Trump was just lying once again. Weird. Yeah, he has violated all of those amendments so far. And Martin Bissick says to one of you guys, thanks for the donated membership. Way to stick together, guys. We'll be back. right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. Also, Tara Carrion and Thomas Hopkins, they're American heroes who hit that big, beautiful join button below the video on YouTube. You guys can do it at tyt.com/join. We appreciate it. We can't do the show without members. Show support if you can. It makes a big difference, and you get all of our content whenever you want. All right. So we try to create win-wins all the time here, and we do that with our sponsors too. We try to find you good sponsors. We do the research, and so that they can save you money and give you good services. So in this case, Chapter is a great example of it. So that you know the Medicare system is broken. Millions of seniors are on the wrong Medicare plan, and I found that out through my parents. Reason for most Medicare agents recommend plans based on the highest commissions rather than what's right for you. Chapter doesn't work for big insurance. They're independent and they work for you. They're the only advisor that searches every plan nationwide. Call them today, 805-201. 805-201-2275, 805-201-2275. It's fast and free. They can review your options in 20 minutes. Call the number on the screen today. I think they're gonna help you a lot and maybe save you all the way up to, well, on average, $1,100 a year. So that's a big deal, 805-201-2275. All right, Anna, what's next?
Lots of fire and fury over at the PBD podcast. Not from every single member of that panel, but certainly from one.
Pam Bondi, you lied to us.
Exactly.
You're the attorney general. You're the highest law enforcement. You think we're stupid? So obviously, to me, my opinion, that means the people that are involved are still hovering and circling around like vultures going, don't do that, better not do that. He's on this, we have a relationship with this. It drives me bananas.
Yeah, our president, Donald Trump, is actually one of those, guys basically telling members of Congress it is a hostile act to release the Jeffrey Epstein files. So Vincent Oshana from the PBD podcast is not holding back, and I love to see it. He's continuing to call out the Trump administration for their obvious cover-up of the Epstein scandal, which Donald Trump again has repeatedly dismissed and has referred to as a Democrat hoax. Now, the conversation stemmed from the Epstein jail security footage, which you'll remember initially when they released it, mysteriously had about 3 minutes missing from it. And this is when they released it back in July. Well, it turns out that the missing minute of footage at 11:59 p.m. the night Epstein died was actually not missing at all. It was released as part of the files made public by Congress this week, undercutting a claim that Pam Bondi had made. Pam Bondi made a really interesting claim, and now I'm really wondering what's her new explanation, because she claimed that there was a minute missing for this reason. Take a look.
It was a minute that was off the counter, and what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999, so every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night, and that's it on Epstein.
It's amazing how effortlessly they lie to the American people. Just make something up. Like, she literally just made that up. Obviously, she made that up because there wasn't a missing minute. They just released the full video. Why did you lie? And why was that? More importantly, like, why was that minute missing initially?
And then it turns out it wasn't a minute.
It was 3 minutes.
Yeah, and then it turns out there's a guy in the video that is super curious.
Yeah, and honestly, the fact that they cut that out now makes me wonder what's up with that dude. Like, who's that guy? Is there an issue with that guy? Like, everything that they have done. Look, there are so many Americans who didn't think that there was some conspiracy, who thought anyone else who treated the Jeffrey Epstein story as some big conspiracy were lunatics. Those people are now convinced there's a big conspiracy for obvious reasons.
The only people not convinced is mainstream media, because every article still refers to it as a conspiracy theory that maybe they didn't release the right tape, that the Epstein client list is being covered up. How is that a conspiracy theory? The women told you, yeah, there was many other men involved, and the government won't give you their names, let alone prosecute
them.
Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to prosecute child rapists.
The only thing
that's
that
not
would
that
make
complicated.
Sense, the only thing that would make sense in regard to prosecutors refusing to prosecute the co-conspirators, the other individuals who were literally preying on minors, is that they were Israeli and they allowed them to fly back to Israel. How's Tom Alexandrovich doing?
Yeah.
Anyway.
So, but look, let me just real quick off that, right? So, look, guys, there's a lot of reasons why you should be mad about the Epstein case. You know, all those women, those girls who suffered it, and it's super obvious, right? And then all of these distractions. I mean, that's not even the right video. The video that makes a difference is the one in the hallway. And they're like, oh, that hallway video that was in front of Epstein's cell is not working. Golly gee, we do not have that video. No, it's not. Come on, the conspiracy is that he hung himself and that there are no other clients. That's ludicrous. But I just want to make a really important point overall here. This isn't just about Epstein. This is about, do you trust the government or do you not? Does the government work for you or does it work for someone else?
Someone else.
Right, and that's why when people try to minimize this, and to Anna's point, it's weirdly constantly people who support Israel that are trying to minimize the Epstein files. They're accidentally telling on themselves. I mean, I did a post today about Ro Khanna, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Tom Massey. It's part of the story we're gonna get back to in a second. They did a press conference, obviously, with the Epstein survivors yesterday. And then a guy writes in, and usually one of the Israeli bots and trolls. Again, I don't know it for sure, but he's the guy. He's one of the guys that's always in my mentions that said always defending Israel over the top. And he's like, oh yeah, just because you want to blame Israel. I'm like, brother, I didn't say anything about Israel in the tweet.
Oh, I love it so much.
Okay,
I love it so much. I really do. And by the way, yeah, if there's evidence in those files indicating that a foreign government, whether it's Israel, whether it's Venezuela, whether it's Turkey, whether it's Armenia, whether it's Mexico, I don't care. Okay, I want to live in a sovereign country knowing that our politicians and powerful people in our country, including the donors to our politicians who control our politicians, aren't being blackmailed by a foreign country that has its own self-interest through American foreign policy. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Do you want to live in a sovereign country or not?
So that's why, guys, when you see people minimizing and saying, oh, what's the big deal about this Epstein thing, right? They're trying to distract you because it's not like the rape already would be enormous because hundreds, maybe over 1,000 girls were raped, right? That's already like catastrophic and gigantic, right? But that's, the bigger issue is, are we in control of our government or aren't we? There is no larger issue than that. And so it doesn't have to be Israel, guys. We don't know. It could be the CIA, but if the CIA is doing this, we should know. Our own CIA doing this, we should know. But no matter how you slice it, there's no question that there were hundreds of men involved and none of them have been prosecuted and none of them have been named. Our government is protecting the guilty. We have every right to know why, and that is not a little question. That is a central question. Do we have representative democracy or do we not?
Yeah, okay, so let's get back to the video that was just released. So not much can be garnered from that minute of footage, although you do see what looks like a prison guard maybe walking around the area near Epstein's jail cell. And then the video released by Congress is also missing metadata, which would help confirm whether or not it's the raw report or the raw video. And here's the PBD crew like watching the newly released video in real time and Vinny's response to it.
Look for the movement all the way in the back, top left corner. You see something moving back there? Okay, so this is the clip that they didn't release.
This isn't a ghost, Pat? This isn't a ghost, right?
No,
okay. Just want to make sure it's not an apparition.
Keep watching what happens
That's a big
here.
word, Vinny.
Thank you.
Right there, who's that person?
Oh, he's wearing all black. Oh, weird. Who's that?
Nobody knows.
Huh?
Nobody knows what happened there.
You just showed a video. So wait, that means Pam Bondi, you lied to us.
Exactly.
You're the attorney general. You're the highest law enforcement.
That's what I'm
Pam Bondi.
Blondie.
Pam, oh yeah, my bad. And it's like,
Have a little
what do you?
respect.
And Pat, I love that you said that. What? You think we're stupid? You think we're not? You think the nerds that are out there are gonna take that video, put in AI, and say you guys are freaking lying?
And he did also give props to individuals in this country who are trying to fight to get some transparency. So let's take a quick look at that.
Because remember, Henry Anton, the number, nobody cares about Epstein. Who cares? Who cares? No. I'm so proud of Thomas Massey and Ro Khanna from different sides of the aisle, not letting this die out.
By the way, Thomas Massey, I hope has some security around him because he was just on Newsmax Massey says, let me give you the name of one of the billionaires, John Paulson. He is a major donor to the Republican Party, a major donor to the Speaker of the House, and a major donor to the president's campaign. I don't know if he's starting to name names already.
Wow, he said that John Paulson was on the Epstein list?
I mean, he's on Newsmax and he's naming names.
That is a significant development. Okay, so because now you're touching power. Because the donors are the actual power, the politicians are just.
He's in Epstein's black book.
Okay, he said it. Okay, so now it's going to be war. So this is super interesting. And guys, what a fascinating turn of events.
This is crazy.
So I'm going to show you a video from yesterday's press conference real quick here. Ro Khanna, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Let's take a quick look.
I actually think they're helping us come together as a country. Yes. I've never done a press conference with Marjorie Taylor Greene before. I've done some with Tufts, but look, this country is divided and exhausted. This is one thing that we can come together on. Now I want to introduce Marjorie Taylor Greene. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was kind of an awesome moment. I know that a lot of people will look at that and go, oh, boo, I can't believe you guys are coming together. No, we should be divided and hate each other, even on issues we agree on. No, I love that. That was maybe the first true visual of bipartisanship I've ever seen in my life. There's a lot of fake bipartisanship.
Totally.
What corporate media calls bipartisanship. Oh, corporate Democrats and corporate Republicans have agreed to another set of giant tax cuts for their own donors. Yeah, I'm not interested in that bipartisanship. That's the American people from the left and the right sending in their champions and going, fight the establishment. We don't believe them. We think they're lying to us and we want you to fight them. Now notice there's only 3 congressmen there. There's 535 members of Congress. Why aren't they all there supporting Epstein's victims? But they're not. There's only 3 who are willing to do this, and I think that number should be way larger. And so the fact that the voters are beginning to unite against the establishment. I mean, look, I've been waiting my whole life for that. So there's a silver lining in this otherwise disastrous story that we're all beginning to wake up together and going, I don't think the media and the politicians are being honest with us. And I love that we've got the people's champions in there, and Ro Khanna from our side has done a brilliant job.
All right, well, that does it for the first hour. When we come back, we'll talk about, just no big deal. I feel like we're already at war with Venezuela, and it just happened, right? It's a huge story, so we're gonna give you the details on that.
Nobel Peace Prize.
Yeah, seriously, when we come back.
I went to Kentucky Fried Chicken when I first got my license, like 17 years old or 17, 18, whatever it was. And I'm driving, I think, my dad's Oldsmobile. And I parked it in a place where there was 2 cars next to me, really tight spot, and a car behind me. I don't even know how I got in there because I'm a terrible driver. Back then I was an even worse driver. And on the roads I'm okay, but in parking spots I have terrible spatial reasoning and I'm a mess. And on my way out, I hit all 3 cars at once. I broke all records, okay? So I went, as I'm backing out, I went boom, oh and this side hit that car, this side hit this car, and the back hit the 3rd car, okay? And I got stuck. I didn't know how to get out. Like, I went, okay, for this, and then I'm like, no, and then, right? And then finally I had to stop, go inside the KFC and go, I'm sorry, I hit a bunch of your cars. They're like, what do you mean a bunch of your cars? I'm like, I don't know.
Wow, there's a B?
Yeah, I'm like this, I hit 3 cars. I don't know, so you guys gotta come help me, okay? Okay, so 1, my bad, really sorry about that. Okay, number 2, can someone take my car out? Because I don't wanna keep hitting your cars and I'm incapable of taking it out of this spot.
Now baby, move that fat, baby, move that fat.
Hi, I'm Brett Ehrlich with breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. This is breaking news with Brett Ehrlich. Hi, Brett Ehrlich here. According to EPA head Scott Pruitt, climate change is not happening. He cited a meme on Facebook he saw. When pressed To back up this source, he said it must be accurate because the watermark said it was made by a scientist. So, your move, Truth.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT.
The place is like 95% TYT on.
You guys, the Young Turks, which is my favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Tank and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
The people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys, and Thomas Hopkins, who joined, upgraded to premium. You're awesome, Thomas. We love that. All right, thank you for supporting the show. It makes a huge difference. All right, Anna, what's next?
We got to talk a little bit about what's going down between the United States and Venezuela, of course. Let's get into it.
Hard to have any sympathy for drug dealers, trying to import product into our country. But at the same time, I guess you might ask the question, where does it end? Are we the world's policemen, the international policemen? Are we going to be blowing people up off the coast all around the world trying to interdict? Really, I'm not sure we have the finances to be the world's policemen.
We sure don't. In fact, our national debt, has a lot to do with the fact that we love to start wars and we love to fund conflicts abroad. And Senator Rand Paul, of course, is cautioning the Trump administration after its decision to strike a Venezuelan boat that allegedly was carrying, Venezuelan drug traffickers. Now I say allegedly because we don't know if that's true. There hasn't been any evidence presented to us. And rather than intercept the boat that they might suspect contains drugs and drug traffickers, they just did a strike and killed 11 people. And let's be clear, the likelihood that this is really about drug trafficking is a little ridiculous to me when you have Trump administration officials whispering about regime change in Venezuela. And if you can recall, in Trump's first term, he attempted to do a coup in Venezuela, not once, but twice, to install a puppet leader, Juan Guaido. Now, about the strike itself, Secretary of State Marco Rubio says that Trump wanted to strike the boat instead of intercepting it, that it was Trump's decision to do that. Instead of interdicting it on the president's orders, we blew it up. And it'll happen again. Maybe it's happening right now. So look, even if you happen to love the Trump administration and you love everything they're up to and what they're doing, are you not a little bit concerned when you have a government that could just point to anyone or anything, call them a terrorist, accuse them of being drug traffickers, and then kill them? And do you ever wonder about, the consequences, the long-term consequences of acting like this on the international stage? Nonetheless, the New York Times had this fascinating sentence. Pentagon officials were still working Wednesday on what legal authority they would tell the public was used to back up the extraordinary strike in international waters. So when you see the type of multipolar world we're now living in, where you have some real big players on the international stage, you have China, Russia, India, Iran getting together for a summit in China, China's showing off their new military capabilities. We should be a little bit worried because America isn't gonna get away with just bullying and carrying out all sorts of war crimes. There will be consequences for the American people based on the belligerence that we're currently experiencing with the Trump administration. Now, again, that strike killed 11 people and it's about regime change. This is not really about fighting, the drug war or doing something about fentanyl, besides which fentanyl doesn't come from Venezuela, cocaine does. We have a fentanyl epidemic in this country, so I don't know how killing 11 people randomly in international waters is gonna solve that issue. But prior to the US striking that Venezuelan boat, the US engaged in a military buildup off the coast of Venezuela. So Washington has dispatched 3 destroyers with an amphibious squadron carrying 4,000 Marines to waters off Venezuela. Its rationale is to supposedly disrupt drug cartels, but in Venezuela, obviously, they believe that this is really a challenge to its sovereignty and their security. They do believe that this is really about regime change, probably because Trump had already tried this not once but twice in his first term. And Trump's deployment, by the way, also included 2,200 Marines. Really, we're gonna deploy Marines to fight drugs? Sounds weird, not really typical of what usually happens. And Axios also reports that a Trump administration official told them that this is 105% about narco-terrorism. But if Maduro winds up no longer in power, no one will be crying.
Yeah, so it's not about narco-terrorism, it's about killing Maduro and doing a coup.
Yeah, and by the way, there is currently at first there was a $50 million, there is a $50 million bounty for Maduro. Trump took a $25 million bounty and upped it to $50 million. Now Axios also had this amazing quote from a Trump advisor: leaving Maduro in power in Venezuela is like making Jeffrey Epstein the head of a daycare. So it's very clear what their actual objectives are, Cenk.
Yeah. Oh, Jeffrey Epstein, you mean the guy the US government and you Trump administration are covering up his crimes,
yeah,
that guy? Okay, yeah, I got you. All right. So on August 7th, yes, Trump doubled it to 50 million. I just want you to think about, I know in American politics and media, nobody ever thinks about reciprocity, right? But so we just go, oh, they're dirty terrorists. Yeah, of course, somebody here, I will pay you $50 million to murder the leader of Venezuela. Imagine if Iran said, oh yeah, we'll pay $50 million for anyone to murder Trump. What would we say? You know that everyone in American media would say, terrorist, right? Obviously terrorist. So, but what we get to do it, like Israel gets to kill the entire Houthi cabinet and the prime minister, and we get to kill Maduro. There's no laws anymore. So I'm going to come back to that because that's the central issue here, and it's a giant problem. Okay, so number 2, Marines are for ground action. There's no reason to bring Marines unless you're going on the ground.
Yep.
Okay, and they're an amphibious squadron, so their job is to get through the water and onto the ground. So why did you bring them? So look, since they tried to do a coup attempt twice on him already in the first Trump term, this is not complicated. They're obviously trying to topple Maduro. Venezuela is a relatively small country when it comes to the drug trade. Colombia is much larger, Mexico is much larger, and it goes on, right? So if you were targeting drug trafficking, you would not pick Venezuela. You would pick other countries, especially because they have nothing to do with fentanyl, right? So now, could the massive oil reserves, in fact, the largest oil reserves in the world, are in Venezuela. Could that have something to do with this? And remember, the US government doesn't work for US taxpayers. If we topple Venezuela, there'll be a lot more calamity there, and we'll get more immigrants coming to the border. We won't get any of the oil money. It will have no positive effects for us at all. But the oil companies will get the oil for a lot cheaper.
They'll get it for cheaper, but I think there's also something else at play here, Cenk, because China relies on Venezuela for a huge portion of its oil.
And now
so it's a way of kneecapping China as well.
So that's right. The US doesn't like anyone not obeying their orders, right? So they're like, look, if we want to cut off oil to wherever it might be, China, Cuba, and apparently Marco Rubio has a personal grievance against Maduro because he thinks that he's working with the Cubans. So he's like, oh, anybody working with the Cubans, I'll murder them because we're for freedom. But bottom line is, yeah, we want to control the oil of Venezuela because it's not Venezuela's oil. Oh, and that's been the problem with US policy towards Latin America this entire time.
This guy, man, he is destroying like the future of this country in so many different ways. But I just want you to take this all in, okay? We're already $37 trillion in debt. He just worsened that situation by passing the so-called big beautiful bill, which will increase our debt considerably because it's going to take in less revenue for the federal government because it's massive tax cuts for the rich, obviously. Okay, but then on top of that, he's starting brand new wars. We are bankrolling a genocide in Gaza. We're probably gonna bankroll the annexation of the West Bank. Not only is that immoral, even if you happen to be one of those people who doesn't see Palestinians as human beings, first of all, I hate you and I think you're a disgusting person. But put that aside for a second. If you only care about yourself or only care about this country, we're gonna bankroll that? We're gonna pay for that. I mean, how much of our hard-earned money, how many of our resources are gonna be sucked out of this country in order to enrich defense contractors, in order to help Israel with whatever objectives they have in basically dominating the Middle East? I'm so sick, I hate our politicians. I hate our government, I really do. This is why probably I've grown some admiration and affection for some libertarians, like people like Dave Smith, because it's like, what are we paying our taxes for at this point? What are we paying our taxes for, right? You're seeing social services get cut, public services get cut, and we're still paying taxes. How much of that money actually goes to benefit our lives? Seriously.
Yeah, so there's other issues too. How is this anti-war?
Come on, this isn't anti, he's starting a brand new war. This is a brand new war, that's what he's doing. Are we gonna go to war with Iran too? Because Israel wants us to, they're not done with that. It's ridiculous. So
when I saw that they were trying to murder Maduro and take over Venezuela, I thought, I wonder what Maduro did to Israel. So I don't think this one has to do with Israel. Okay, so that's such a rare exception that we have to note, hey, this particular war is actually not Israel, okay?
Everything you thought about why we invaded Iraq in 2003 is what you should think about this war with Venezuela, okay? Because it wasn't about oil in Iraq, okay? It was about doing Israel favors. That's what that war was about, okay? And Israel was more reliant on Iraq's oil than we were, so it wasn't about the oil. This war with Venezuela, they want to topple that regime. They want to, capture the largest oil reserve on this planet. And it's so utterly irresponsible and stupid, but here we are.
Yeah, and then guys, now back to the most important point out of all of this stuff, which is we're creating lawlessness. And that is for the state of humanity, a disaster. Because once we say, look, I mean, the most important thing that Anna read you was that initial part where they said they're still trying to figure out an excuse for why they did it.
A legal explanation.
Yeah, if you are figuring out the law after you violated it, like oh, let's murder people and then figure out if we were right to kill them legally. you've got it massively backwards. And obviously, what you're saying is, I don't care about the law. I'm gonna come up with some sort of legal excuse. Literally, in this case, they're admitting it later, after I already killed them. Okay, so now we, and unfortunately, again, back to Israel for 1 second, Israel thinks we're above the law and we can kill anyone we like. We don't have to listen to international law. We could commit war crimes and there's never any consequences because we're bigger than you and we have a bigger military. Yeah, but first of all, it's gonna create chaos because then Venezuela is gonna go, okay, if there's no laws anymore and anybody can kill anyone in international waters, hey, I didn't like the leader of Nicaragua. They had a boat out there with 200 people on it. I killed them all. So what?
So let me.
So what? There are no laws anymore.
Cenk,
right?
You're making such a good point. Like, this is the most important point in this story, okay?
Yeah.
The lawlessness. And I know this is gonna sound counterintuitive or weird because right now Trump is in charge and what Trump is doing is wrong. Clearly, I think it's wrong. That's what this whole commentary has been so far. But I wanna just take a moment to talk about what a massive, steaming pile of crap Joe Biden is, okay? Because if you can recall, when he was still president, I made the argument that allowing Israel to carry out the war crimes it was carrying out without ever checking them, without ever using your leverage as the American president, without denying them weapons, what you are doing is you're taking a crap on international laws. You're degrading them, you're debasing that entire system that was set up. And when you open that door and risk the possibility of someone like Donald Trump becoming president again, which is exactly what the Democrats did, what do you think is gonna happen?
Yeah.
Yeah, Joe Biden is one of the worst American presidents, really, okay? One of the worst presidents in American history because of what he enabled and the consequences that we are suffering as a result of that.
Yeah, so first of all, he ran when he has dementia, so he let Trump walk into the White House, turned into an epic disaster when he couldn't talk at the debate, as you all know. So he said that he was going against Trump to protect democracy and the international order. So by letting Trump walk back into the White House, he hurt the cause of democracy. And then he allowed Trump to say, hey, you let Israel break any law you want. Why can't we break any international law we want? They're in international waters, I don't care. You're supposed to normally first stop them and see if they let you board them. That's how you interdict someone, and that is what is legal. And they're like, no, we didn't ask to board the ship. We didn't ask who they were. We didn't ask anything. And by the way, initially they said they were going to Trinidad. Then Trump said they were going to America. So then Rubio then changed his story to, yeah, I guess they were going to America. They're obviously lying. They're lying, and they're saying we're allowed to murder anyone we like in international waters. Other countries will use that against their foes. They will use it against us. And then soon no one will be listening to international law, and we'll be back to the time we were before World War II. And you know what happened then. So there was a reason why we passed those international laws, because humans are not good with chaos. We get scared, we get violent, and then anarchy breaks out.
Yep.
And that's exactly what we're risking here.
All right, one more story before we go to break.
And the deal has to be executed by the people who took the hostages, Hamas. They're the ones holding them. They're the ones who have been holding them since October the 7th. They keep, talking about possible incremental. Why don't they just release? Can you answer one simple question?
They want to release the hostages.
All of them?
Yes.
How many?
They accepted a ceasefire.
They said maybe 10.
Give us a 60-day pause in this war. We will return every single hostage. Israel stands in the way every single time.
Hamas has reiterated again today that they are willing to release all of the hostages as part of a ceasefire deal. Yet another example of me being right, and the smug Israel first Scott Jennings, getting proven wrong. But nonetheless, while Hamas has made similar statements in the past, the militant group reiterated the position late on Wednesday after President Trump called on it to immediately release all of the living hostages still held in Gaza. And here's the post on Truth Social where Trump says, tell Hamas to immediately give back all 20 hostages, not 2 or 5 or 7, and things will change rapidly. It will end. Well, I got news for you, buddy. They have accepted the ceasefire. And Israel, despite the fact that these were the terms that they initially wanted, is saying, no, we don't want it, because of course we intend on taking that land, pushing the Palestinians out, and annexing the West Bank while we're at it. They say it out loud. Why are they treating us like we're stupid? They say it out loud.
Yeah, so look, the mainstream media is actually starting to finally get a little bit better. You've seen me criticize them at large, and you've seen me criticize them vociferously on the issue of Israel. But now they're beginning to report it as it really is, because they've now gotten to a point of great frustration 2 years in. So they've now seen the Israeli government lie almost every single time, and then their stories are disproven, et cetera.
The mainstream media, the corporate media in America, sorry to interrupt you, Cenk, they're complicit in genocide. I want to be clear about that, because they're not stupid. Okay, they're not stupid. We have far less resources than they do. We've been seeing the exact same things that they see. We've been hearing the exact same statements from Israeli politicians as they have. They are complicit in genocide. Don't try to cover it up now. Don't try to pretend like you haven't been complicit in genocide. You're complicit in genocide. That's it.
Anna,
go ahead.
You're totally right, and you know how much I've said that a million times on the show. But I want to get to one of the specific reasons for that real quick. This is a little bit of a tangent from this story, but the reason is because they're afraid. Because if you criticize Israel, you will be called an anti-Semite, and they will try to ruin your life.
It's better to be complicit in genocide, I guess.
No, I get. I'm explaining why they're doing it, because they're cowards. So journalists are supposed to be brave. And by the way, the journalists in Gaza are the bravest people on earth. And Israel's on a campaign to murder as many of them as possible. So that's what real journalism looks like. So for these journalists, though, if you criticize Israel even by an inch, there's groups that are organized in America that are basically thugs working on behalf of Israel that will pretend that reporter is an anti-Semite, even if they're Jewish, by the way. And then they will say, you have to fire him, you have to fire him, you have to fire him, you have to fire him. And they will tell every employer from the rest of time, he's a well-known anti-Semite. Well-known anti-Semite. Anti-Semite shouldn't work. And then maybe they'll target his family, etc. So that's why they're scared to death. They're like, but Israel, every genocide scholar has declared that it's a genocide. Oh, please don't fire me. Okay, so if you're gonna pretend that's not happening, you're lying. That's definitely happening. We've seen it with our own eyes. So anyways, but despite that, after 2 brutal years, now the New York Times is being a lot clearer. And they clarified in this article 2 times. No, maybe even 3 times. Hamas has accepted the peace deal. They've accepted it a number of times now and said they would return all of the hostages. There's no question about it. It's Israel that changed. First they said they wanted a graduated deal. Now they say they want a comprehensive, as soon as Hamas accepted their deal, their deal, okay? And that's Hamas, by the way, crumbling, because the Palestinians are in terrible situation, and I don't know the motivation of Hamas. I hope they have a little bit of humanity and care about the starving children, but either way, they're like, okay, you win, we'll take your deal. And Israel's like, oh, you did? Damn it, that you were supposed to not take it. We're now changing it. Now we want a comprehensive deal. What's part of your comprehensive deal? 2 things that have never made any sense, and to this late date, again, mainstream media has been awful on this, and they continue to be awful on this. 2 things. One is complete,
militarization, right? Like basically give up your arsenal.
You have to give up, forget arsenal. They say you have to give up all of your weapons.
Yeah.
And Hamas has to surrender. Okay, what does it mean to give up all your weapons? How do we know? Like if they come out and they're like, okay, here's 200 missiles and 300 AK-47s. How do we know that's all of it? You know what Israel say? That's not all of it. We don't count it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. And they say, okay, Hamas has to surrender. So are all these guys gonna, and we don't know how many people are in Hamas. So if let's say 10,000 people came out and said, oh, we are Hamas and we are surrendering, go ahead, Israel, kill us, right? First of all, do you think people are gonna do that?
Israel thinks the entirety of the Gaza Strip is Hamas.
Yeah, so my point is, they are purposely putting out a deal now that is like literally, empirically unattainable. We don't know how many weapons they have. We don't know how many people are in Hamas. So they know that it is not doable because they don't want peace. This is not arguable. The people who are continuing this war and do not want peace is Israel. And it's not 50-50, and it's not even 80-20. It is so stunningly clear. Even the New York Times had to clarify several times. Hamas has accepted the peace deal. Israel has not. They have violated their own agreement, their own offer, and it made an impossible offer back.
Yep.
Why? Because now that's the part they won't tell you. Because this has always been about taking Gaza. Obviously. If you don't realize that they destroyed everything in Gaza, because so that they can say, oh, I guess there's nowhere to live. I guess we got to kick out the Palestinians. Oh, I guess it's ours. But besides which, you don't have to guess at it because they already said it and they already voted on it. No Palestinian state will ever exist. We're going to take Gaza. And Smotrich and another minister said, we're going to annihilate everyone in Gaza. And yes, we're starving them to death. What are you going to do about it? So that's the current sick government of Israel that hates peace, loves war, loves genocide, and is honestly a terrorist government that we are forced to fund as American taxpayers. It's like forcing us to pay for the Khmer Rouge, or yes, the Serbs that were slaughtering the Bosnians, or any genocide. Oh no, you have to pay for that genocide, otherwise you hate Jews. What an insane, ludicrous, and by the way, anti-Semitic argument.
100%, yes, exactly. And by the way, Scott Jennings has been attacking me on Twitter, or X, arguing that, I hate Israel because I think foreign wars have contributed more to our national debt than the fact that our Social Security is not, taxing wealthier people more of their income. Okay. Number one, I do hate the state of Israel, meaning the government of Israel. I do, and I have no bones about admitting that publicly. I despise them. I think they're evil. I think that they have blood on their hands, and I think they engage in some of the most their behavior is so disgusting that it has fundamentally changed my view of the world and my own government. Yes, I hate the government of Israel deeply, deeply.
Yeah, and so look, and they always have double standards too. So
why am I required to love Israel?
What a strange requirement. You know what?
I'm an American.
Scott Jennings doesn't properly love Turkey.
No, he doesn't properly love America enough. Why are you making Americans complicit in a genocide by defending the genocide? And by the way, his whole argument is, no. Do not at all criticize the fact that we fund Israel's wars. We as American citizens have to bankroll Israel's atrocities. That's what he's mad about. That I would have the audacity to question Americans being forced to pay for Israel's atrocities.
Yeah, I bring up Turkey because if you put any other country in, it makes no sense at all. You have to love the Netherlands. If you don't love the Netherlands, you're a terrible person. What? Why? Why do I have to love the Netherlands? They're a perfectly lovely country, but why do I have to love them? Why do I have to give them $300 billion? Why do I have to support a genocide they're doing? But when it comes to Israel, the Scott Jennings of the world, because Scott is a guy who cares about his own power. So he realizes if I kiss Trump's ass, I'm gonna get more power. And it's not rocket science to figure out in Washington, if you kiss Israel's ass, you're gonna get maximum power. If you criticize Israel slightly, how dare you? You should be canceled, right? And by the way, he could attack you and then he will turn around and I guarantee you he'll make a case. They were mean to me. They said that I make faces on CNN when I go, You do. Yeah. You make it every time somebody's talking. Scott Jennings' faces. I'm smug. I'm better than you. And you don't know anything. And you don't love America. If you love Israel, and you say we have to pay for their genocide, we have to pay for it. Yeah. You don't love America. You just want to represent a foreign government. Why don't you go on channel 12 or whatever other channel there is in Israel and leave us alone, okay? So at this point, it's super obvious what's happening. Israel is trying to steal Gaza, and now they're looking to annex the West Bank. And fools and people like Scott Jennings, who basically
genocide defenders. That's
what they are. They're defending an ethnic cleansing, sick genocide in Israel. And what drives me crazy and it gets under my skin is that everyone in Washington thinks like, oh, calling it a genocide, Israel has not approved that. Israel will be very unhappy. I can't believe you're calling it a genocide. That is very cancelable offense, right? You're not allowed to say things like that. What happened to freedom of speech, right? What happened to America's rights?
No, our rights don't matter. Our rights don't matter at all when it comes to that foreign country.
I got news for Scott Jennings and everyone in Washington. Everyone in Washington. We are not immoral monsters like you. We actually care about human beings, whether they're Palestinian or Israeli or anywhere in the world. We think they should be treated the same. We're horrified when October 7th happens and 1,200 innocent people die. We're also horrified when 64,000 people die in Palestine, 20,000 children. Now mass starvation. And you could lie about it all day, Scott Jennings, for your buddies in the sick genocidal government of Israel. But we all know, all of America knows they're starving them to death. All of America knows Israel is not our ally. Israel's taking $310 billion off of us. Israel's doing it for land. Israel's committing genocide. We all know. You can lie all you want in mainstream media. You can lie all you want in Washington. But now we look at you with the same Scott Jennings face. Okay, with that stupid, smug skepticism. Yeah, right back at you, brother. We all think you're a toady. We think you're a fool. And sitting there simping for Israel and betraying America. That's what we think of you. And it's not about Scott Jennings. It's about Washington. We're all sick of you. Now the left and the right and the middle. We're not interested in funding a genocide. Stop stealing our money for a genocidal government.
All right, we're not quite done with this. When we come back, we'll talk about how someone who's really made a career out of genocide denial is now gonna have editorial control of CBS's news division. We'll be right back.
Sick. All right, so let's go to TYT.com members. Dating app Dropout Solid Crusader says, since Bush, no president asked, oh sorry, these are super chats. Since Bush, no president asked why migrants flee or invested in their homelands. Instead, warmongers stoke Middle East wars chasing oil and power. Grizz, my homie from the street, says, these boats that smuggle drugs are usually crewed by mostly sailors and fishermen, with the captain being under the threat by the cartel, and a lot of time the crew doesn't know they have illicit cargo. Doesn't matter, just murder them all and sort it out later, apparently. Titan says, so drug trafficking is now something worthy of execution? What happened to arresting and investigating the drug source to shut it down? We really are in the worst timeline.
We are.
Great Mount Olympus, save us. So, yeah, when Duterte started doing this, the whole international community said he was a grotesque dictator and should be run out of office and imprisoned, and he was run out of office and he was imprisoned. Now the US president is doing it and saying, in just the same way the Israelis do, we're above the law. We can do anything we want. And that is a terrible, terrible standard to set. Gamble says, do you guys see Bernie grill RFK? Everyone's corrupt but you. And says Chef's Kiss. Yes, we got the RFK story coming up. Super Platinum Man says, have you guys been seeing the channel Breezy Politics? Many of your clips on Israel has been featured. They are awesome. Yeah, so I saw those and that is great. We appreciate it. They're trying to tamp down all anti-Israel things, but as a Palestinian doctor said on the show last week, it's like they have enough money to whack a couple of moles. Oh, the Australians are giving them a problem, boom, okay. Couple of Americans, boom, boom, right? But now the whole world is in a rebellion against Israel because it's just so atrocious what they're doing.
And guys,
so they don't even have enough money to be able to shut all of us down. So they're like, oh, shut down TikTok. Oh, you get somebody inside YouTube. Do this, do that. Meanwhile, Breezy Politics comes. Breaking Points, us, Zateo, now Piers Morgan, and they just can't control it, and it's driving them crazy. And they're like, anti-Semites, shut them all down. Okay, yeah. Remember, these are not Jews, these are Israeli thugs.
Yes, and more importantly, what they do to try to silence people is they threaten them and they try to get them fired. They go after their the family members of people who are being honest about what's going on in Gaza and the West Bank. It's just, the whole thing is so sick. It's so sick, but we're hard to intimidate here at TYT.
Yeah. All right, Titan says Trumpers behave in a fashion where they only care about the Constitution as a tool to block Dems, but view it as irrelevant to doing what they want. Yeah, be honest and principled about it, totally. In Liberty and Guns We Trust says it comes down to personal autonomy and individual liberty. If a law-abiding trans adult wants to buy guns, they have the right under the Constitution. Federal government is the biggest criminal on the planet. So that's one of our conservative viewers, writes in our super chat often. Way to be principled, brother.
Yep.
Okay, there you go. Doesn't matter who it is. You don't get to, if you believe in the Second Amendment, you don't get to take the rights away from any American. M. Brown says, bring Vincent on the show. I think it's possible to crack him. So
I'm actually open to that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll see if Vinny wants to come on. That could be an interesting conversation. Good idea. All right, back on TYT, Jen and Anna with you guys. Kill You Scott on Twitch said, thanks for always standing for the truth. Guys, if you're a member or just participate in the show in any way, thank you guys, because without you, we can't do this show. So if you ever join through YouTube or tyt.com/join, you did donation or anything that you did, you're part of allowing us to tell the truth in obviously an relentless, unmitigated way. We're not checked by anyone. That's because we serve you guys and you're our boss. And I love that. And I hope you're our boss forever. All right, Anna.
All right, well, let's get to our next story. CBS News is about to give editorial control to its news division to someone who is so biased in favor of Israel that her publication regularly denies Israel's war crimes, including the systematic starvation of the Palestinian people in the Gaza Strip, and the slaughter of children, intentional slaughter of children in the Gaza Strip. So Paramount is preparing to shell out as much as $200 million for Bari Weiss's The Free Press and hand her the keys to help steer CBS News. Puck media reporter Dylan Byers pegged the potential purchase price between $100 million and $200 million, with sources saying the talks are in their final stages. So the deal comes on the heels of last month's blockbuster merger between David Ellison's Skydance and Paramount Global. And David Ellison, by the way, reportedly indicated that he wanted to purchase the Free Press specifically because of its pro-Israel bias. And you are about to see a lot more pro-Israel propaganda online as well, because according to reporters Lee Fong and Jack Polson, Israeli lawmakers demand better PR to conceal Gaza famine. Google obliged. Exclusive look at Israeli government contracts for online ads claiming that there is no hunger or starvation in Gaza. In fact, I want to give you a taste of one of those ads, which, by the way, has gotten 6 million views. Take a look.
Real footage of food scene in Gaza City, July 2025.
نستقبلكم اليوم حبايبنا لازم كلازوني خضار وكلازوني لحمه وكلازوني كلاماري بيجوا باذن الله رجعناها لكل الناس اللي
Let's go to the last graphic here, graphic 8. The UN Aid Coordination Office, OCHA, further warned on Friday of a descent into a massive famine in the Gaza Strip. At least 367 Palestinians, including 131 children, have died as a result of hunger and malnutrition since the war began.
If the Israeli government is talking, the Israeli government is lying. So the idea that they're feasting in Gaza, how preposterous, as children are starving to death. And guys, you can put out all the propaganda you want, and I get it, like YouTube X and all these guys, they took money, and they're an advertiser. So on the one hand, I understand they could say, what do you want me to do? Turn down money? If Norway wants to advertise for tourism, I'm gonna take the money. If Israel is advertising for a genocide, well, I'm not sure you should take that money. Doesn't it matter? If Goebbels said, hey, look, I just want to say there are no concentration camps, and the Jews, look here, I found video of Jews in Germany who are eating a nice meal. And so that means that there can't be concentration camps. I'm gonna pay you $45 million, you run that ad for me and tell everybody, in essence, through the ad, that everything in Germany is fine. Would you do, I hope they wouldn't have done that. I hope they wouldn't have done that. If the Serbs had done that when they're slaughtering people in Bosnia or Srebrenica, and on, would we take ads and say, oh no, it is fine, ignore the genocide. Let's pretend that they're really healthy and eating a lot of food when every reporting group, human rights group, etc. says, no, they're starving to death. The Israelis are lying, okay? Well, no, that's the old news that was actually truth related. Now we're gonna do the Bari Weiss version of news. So like guys, here's important things. I'm not an Israeli supporter, so I don't think we should shut anyone down, okay? Israeli supporters believe that if you criticize Israel, you should be fired, arrested, deported, your life should be ruined. There are a bunch of thugs who go around trying to intimidate Americans from not exercising their constitutional rights. If you criticize America, love it, no problem. You could do that all day long. Criticize Israel, we're gonna ruin your life, is what the thugs who are Israeli supporters at this late date are doing all across American media. And Bari Weiss is a person who should have her constitutional rights. Of course, that's not even a question. Should she be able to support and love a genocide? I think it's loathsome, but she's allowed to, right? And she's allowed to pretend one doesn't exist. Oh, the 64,000 dead Palestinians, they're not really dead. Plus they're Hamas, plus they had it coming, plus their children are also terrorists. We had to murder their children in order to liberate their children from Hamas, right? All these disgusting, sick things. She's allowed to say all of it, and I'll even debate her. I'm not looking to cancel any human being, okay? And they want to make a deal, and the people that are buying this think, I love Israeli. They said that they are giving her a higher price. They said that in public, reported by the New York Post, that they're giving her a higher price for her publication because she's pro-Israel.
Yeah.
And by the way, the reason they would say that is to send a message to everyone else in media, if you play ball with Israel, you'll get paid more. If you do not play ball with Israel, you will be punished financially, right?
Yeah.
But to put Bari Weiss in any role in charge of CBS News means it's not this whole CBS.
Over.
Yeah,
it's over.
That's not CBS. That's now it'll be turned. If it happens and it comes to fruition, that means it'll be 100% Israeli propaganda. I've never,
as if it's not already. Like it's amazing.
Look, so Bari, I participated in things that Bari Weiss has put together. Again, I don't care. I debated Ann Coulter. I can't stand her views on immigration, but it's a free country, right? But you can't tell me that Bari Weiss isn't going to do Israeli propaganda.
She is, and
that's all she's ever done in her career, ever. I'm not saying she didn't do other topics, but on the issue of Israel, she has never wavered from Israel's right about everything. Shut up and pay Israel infinite amount of money, 300 billion from the American taxpayers is not enough. You give them more, otherwise you're an anti-Semite and you should be canceled. That's Bari Weiss, you all know it. And now she's gonna run CBS. That means you might as well throw CBS in the garbage.
Well, that is exactly, I have a big announcement to make as executive producer of this show. And this is the first time I'm saying it. Our producers are gonna hear it for the first time. But moving forward, through our research and production process, we are not to use any original reporting from CBS News, regardless of what the topic is, because I don't trust them. If this is what the leadership at CBS thinks is a good decision in regard to editorial control of their news content, then they're not to be trusted. So we will not ever rely on CBS News for any of their reporting, and we will not cover their stories as if it's the truth, because we don't know if it's the truth.
So if this goes to fruition,
it is going to go to fruition. So once it's confirmed, we are not going to ever use CBS News as a source.
I mean, look, Israel has killed 60 times the number of civilians that Hamas has, and that's an conservative estimate. And they've killed 500 times the number of children Hamas has. So if CBS is going to claim it, to be fair, CBS was already largely claiming this to begin with. Most of American media was. No. 1/60th the number of civilians killed is terrorists. 60 times the number of civilians killed is the most moral army. It was already propaganda. So all of these, the ass kissers of Israel and all across mainstream media are all lying to you. They're all pretending that Israel is not 60 times the terrorist that Hamas is. That's an empirical fact. In fact, their civilian kill ratio is worse than Hamas. Hamas killed 67% civilians on October 7th, which is an atrocity and horrible, and we've condemned it to no end. Israel's civilian kill ratio is 83%, worse than the terrorists of Hamas, and now have done it at least 60 October 7ths on Gaza. They've destroyed almost every building in Gaza, and they're saying the Palestinians are never going to be able to exist, and they've voted on that. But if CBS News is telling you, oh, Israel's our ally, Israel's the moral ones, well, they're a bunch of liars. So, and that is unfortunately the great majority of our mainstream media.
All right, we'll be right back.
All right, let's go to our members on TYT.com. Malvern Mike for TYT says, thank you, Cenk and Anna, for your passion and honesty. You're helping many people, including myself, to keep the possibility of positive change alive in the midst of this era of epic evil we are living through. Thanks for saying that, brother. And I do believe that sometimes the light comes right after extreme darkness.
I feel like I've never seen the light, and it's never coming. Everything has only gotten worse in this country and around the world. It's only devolved since I was born. Yes.
Since you were born, yes. Yeah, for sure. No, the most important part of that sentence is since you were born. From 1938.
I'm almost 40 years old, by the way.
I know, no, that's definitely right. 1938 to 1978, we passed Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid. We uplifted hundreds of millions of Americans from poverty. We created the greatest middle class the world has ever seen, the greatest democracy the world has ever seen. We created the United Nations and the idea of human rights to begin with. We did amazing things in this country we were the light in the darkness. And now we're the opposite. And it's because of money and politics, period. Once you allow bribery, the worst people on earth will bribe all of our politicians. It's the most obvious thing in the world. But every stupid person working in mainstream media is like, oh, it's just like a minor, tiny issue, money in politics. Oh, no, the politicians won't work for the money. The politicians are so noble and honest and decent people. All liars, all of them are liars. They lie about everything. No, money in politics is poison. Our politicians are the worst people in the country. And they're all corrupt and they all work for the money, whether it's Israel, Saudi Arabia, oil, drug companies, it doesn't matter. They're prostitutes for sale. We used to have a press in this country that was strong and that took on the powerful. Now they're like, kiss up to the powerful. I loathe them. Okay, Del Sol 22 says, so glad I found you guys. I finally have the answer on why the US kisses the feet of Israel. Eclectic says, so apparently Trump doesn't have to end freedom of the press in the US. The mainstream media is more than happy to preemptively surrender.
That's exactly right.
Yeah. Winter Scoop says, genocide denier controlling CBS News. What was it that they said about firing Colbert? It wasn't political. Right, of course. Suspow says, Anna is extra spicy today. Love her passion.
Thank you.
Egypt 5 says, based on Israeli-Yemeni example, Venezuela now has a reason to destroy the White House and the cabinet. Yeah, the Israeli logic on that is one Israeli was killed by the Houthis, so we have the right to murder their entire government. According to that logic, yes, the Venezuelans could do that to our government. I don't want that. I don't want that in either case. Disruptor Puss says the Trump administration has claimed all of the American borders are secure. So how could Venezuela possibly be bringing drugs into the United States? Which begs the question, if they're getting in, how are they getting in? Great point. You can't have both ways. Oh, we completely sealed the border. Oh my God, the Venezuelans are getting in. Which one is it? Which one is it? Wang Jun says the politicians who are trying to convince people that the Epstein case isn't such a big deal are the same politicians who want to ban drag queen story hours to protect the children because F consistency. Yeah, if you're worried about drag queen story hour, you're not worried about Epstein? You're not worried about all the men who did those horrible crimes? Come on, what a bunch of liars. Boomer Dragon Cat says, this is exactly what I meant in my Joy comment last Tuesday. We, TYT, had everything to do with helping the left and the right fighting together. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. And a lot of our members are writing in with the same thing. I was just reading Kat's comment in the social break about how she's so proud of us for bringing the left and the right together on important issues like Israel, Epstein, etc. Beverly said that MTG and Roe hug made her choke up a little bit, and she said, "I'll take any shred of solidarity at this point."
Me too.
Eclectic said, "Ro Khanna is right to bring people together." So you guys, I love it. Yes,
dream audience, literally.
Because we can't win against the establishment if we're not united.
I totally agree.
All right, let's do it.
All right, let's get to our next story. A film titled The Voice of Hind Rajab received 23 minutes of uninterrupted applause at the 82nd Venice Film Festival. Sorry, this is a difficult story to talk about, even though it gives you a shred of hope in humanity, considering the reception this film received. Anyway, the drama is based on a 6-year-old Palestinian girl who was trapped in a car with dead family members and was eventually murdered by the IDF last year. We did extensive coverage on that. Some of the biggest names in Hollywood are also behind the film. So we'll get to them in a little bit, but first let's refresh our memories about what happened to Hind. In January of 2024, Hind's family was fleeing Gaza to escape from bloodshed, but their car was attacked by the IDF. Audio recordings of calls between Hind and emergency call operators suggest that the 6-year-old was the only one left alive in the car, hiding from Israeli forces among the bodies of her relatives. Her pleas for someone to help her, to save her, ended when the phone line was cut amid the sound of more gunfire. Take a look.
A desperate call for help from 6-year-old Hind, terrified, trapped in a car. Everyone around her is dead. Hind was in the car with her uncle, his wife, and their 4 children, trying to flee fighting from this part of northern Gaza. The horror in that car captured in this call for help from her cousin, recorded by the Palestine Red Crescent.
بالسيارة احنا زميلة الدبابة
انتوا جوا السيارة الو الو
An ambulance was then sent to rescue. I can't handle this story. It's too hard, Jake. Can you get the rest of it?
Okay, so an ambulance that was sent to rescue Hind was also destroyed by the IDF. So these are the people that are pretending that they're not doing it deliberately. The IDF was aware that an ambulance was going there. They did not go to help the ambulance. They went to go to murder the people inside the ambulance. They knew that a 6-year-old was trapped inside the car, and they went to go kill her. So that is very much the definition of terrorism. That is what the IDF is. They're a bunch of terrorists at this point. They weren't always, but certainly in these last 2 years they have been. In a statement, the Palestinian Red Crescent accused Israel of deliberately targeting the ambulance as soon as it arrived on the scene, and that is what they did. BBC News reports the Israeli occupation deliberately, this is a statement from the Palestinian Red Crescent, deliberately targeted the Red Crescent crew despite obtaining prior coordination to allow the ambulance to arrive at the scene to rescue the child Hind. They also told the BBC that it had taken several hours to coordinate access with the Israeli army in order to send paramedics to Hind. See, they made a mistake. They thought if we tell the Israelis there's a 6-year-old trapped, they won't want, I mean, at a minimum, they won't want the bad PR of murdering a 6-year-old. And we're being super clear with them so they don't make any mistakes and think, oh, it's terrorism or Hamas or whatever. No, and they told the Israelis, they're like, oh, thank you for telling us, so we can murder everyone involved and finish the job, because they had already killed her uncle, her aunt, and the cousins. So their spokesperson for the Red Crescent in that case said, we got the coordination, we got the green light. On arrival, the crew confirmed that they could see the car where Hind was trapped and they could see her. The last thing we heard is continuous gunfire. And of course, as always, no one has been held accountable because it wasn't an accident. They meant to kill her. They meant to kill the rescue workers in the ambulance. You saw the other day on tape, there was rescue workers after they did a strike on a hospital that killed I think it was 5 journalists, but they've murdered so many journalists, we're beginning to lose count, more than all of the other conflicts in the world combined. So the rescue workers, and you see them in orange vests, etc., and boom, they fire a missile right at them and kill them all, okay? Because that's what Israel has done. They've killed more rescue workers, more journalists, more human rights workers than any other conflict in the world. That includes Syria, that includes North Korea, that includes Russia and what they're doing to Ukraine. Much worse than all those conflicts. In fact, when it comes to journalists, worse than all those conflicts combined, okay?
So because this film came out, journalists are like, the American press is like, oh yeah, that's right, that happened. And Israel told us that they had launched an investigation into it. So let's reach out and see like what the update is on the investigation. And they just said, we're still investigating. They're not investigating, obviously, but I want to talk about the reception for the film. So the Voice of Hind Rajab is a reenactment of what happened last year, with one big exception. Rather than cast a child actress to play Hind or change what the little girl actually said, the director chose to keep the real audio of her phone call in the film, which I'm very grateful that they did. Most of the film's visual sequences are reconstructions of the experiences of the Palestine Red Crescent staff who were working in their West Bank office at the time. There were many calls from Hind across a period of hours as the increasingly desperate workers tried to balance the task of trying to organize an ambulance to collect her, for which they had to secure advance Israeli approval, while reassuring a child in a situation for which there is no reassurance. And there are a lot of big names behind this film, and I'm happy to see that. So, attached to the film as executive producers are the following. You have Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix, and one of my personal favorites, Rooney Mara. 2 celebrated directors are also attached to the film as executive producers, including Alfonso Cuarón and Jonathan Glazer. And it's also worth noting that Glazer is a Jewish man whose last movie was about the horrors of the Holocaust. And so when people try to make our criticism about Israel, they try to smear us as anti-Semites. It's so defamatory and so disgusting toward all of the Jewish people across in this country and across the globe. And by the way, in Israel, who protest what the Israeli government and the IDF is currently doing.
Yeah, let's be honest here. In the old days, like as in 2 years ago, if anyone attached their name to a movie that criticized Israel, they would have been fired. Their career would have been over. And so it's not because Jews would have done it. No, look, Jonathan Glazer's doing amazing work here, and I guarantee you they target him as well. Because it's not about the religion, it's about Israeli government and its rabid, thuggish supporters who go around the globe, and including here in America and across in Europe as well. And they go, if you criticize Israel, we're gonna call you an anti-Semite, we're gonna ruin your career, right? So now, though, they're having trouble containing it. Now, Brad Pitt, Joaquin Phoenix, Jonathan Glazer, you can call them self-hating, you can call them anti-Semites, you can call them all these dirty names, but it's not working anymore because the whole world is saying, no, we're not gonna let you commit a genocide. You don't have a special exemption, okay? And so now they're having trouble containing the truth. And they've done a great job of lying to the world for a long, long time. Israel has. 1948, we got attacked. Oh yeah, the 800,000 Palestinians fled for their lives. Why? Because you were killing them, you were murdering them. But in America, I was lied to. I was told, oh yeah, the Palestinians, they chose to leave. And they're the barbers who attacked the poor Israelis. No, that's not what happened in 1948. The Nakba happened in 1948. They drove them out by murdering Palestinians, tying some of them to trees and lighting them on fire, dragging their dead bodies across town. Look, guys, we're not gonna relitigate the existence of Israel. It exists, and it's gonna exist. It's got nukes, it's got Iron Dome, it's got this giant genocidal military. It's not going anywhere, and we're not arguing for it to go anywhere. We're asking for a very simple thing. Stop murdering 6-year-olds. It's not a hard ask. They've murdered over 20,000 children in Gaza. There's no justification for it. It's one of the most immoral things I have ever seen in my life. So thank you to the people who created this movie. Thank you to the executive producers, to the director, and for everyone for the reception that it's getting. Let's all say it in unison. They can't cancel all of us. They can't fire all of us. They can't arrest all of us. Okay, and that's why we did this shirt. It says shoptyt.com, guys. We're not keeping any of the profits. 100% of the profits goes to Palestine Children's Relief Fund, okay? For the entire Free Palestine collection. Why are we doing it? Because I don't want people thinking Americans are monsters and that we like this genocide. No, the American people are against this genocide. Their heart is broken when they see what happened to him. And our hearts are further broken because our terribly corrupt politicians are making us pay for it. And they're pretending that they represent us when they enthusiastically cheer for and fund this sickening genocide. That is what our deeply corrupt politicians in America do, and unfortunately a lot of our media still equivocating. Oh, maybe when Israelis murdered 64,000 people, 20,000 kids, and then you mass starvation. They're still the moral army. They're not terrorists. No, that is exactly what a terrorist does. What they did to Hind is as evil as anything a terrorist has ever done. So thank you for making this movie, and for all Americans out there, speaking on behalf of the Palestinians, you represent our better angels, and we love you for it. So Palestinians, if you're watching in any way, shape, or form, know that our country and our people are not anywhere near as evil as our leaders. Our leaders are disgusting, and they've been literally legally bribed through AIPAC and the Israeli lobby, and they work for Israel. They do not work for the American people. The American people's hearts are broken by what's happening in Gaza. We do not believe in genocide, no matter who's doing it. All right, we gotta go, guys. We have a bonus episode next for the members. We'll see you there.